Reports that Marcus Morris and the Knicks have agreed to trade him to the Clippers, not to the Lakers, to the Clippers in return for Moe Harkless and other assets. James, you're kind of our insider on this, so I'm going to send it to you. Or what are you hearing about this deal?
Yeah, it sounds like basically what we had expected. I mean, I don't remember when the first time that we started hearing maybe the Clippers would want to trade Moe Harkless and a first-round pick and maybe a couple of other salaries to get Marcus Morris, but it certainly feels like forever. And the whole time we were hearing that the Knicks just wanted to keep Marcus Morris. They didn't want to trade him. They were going to re-sign him in free agency. They liked that he wanted to be in New York. They liked that he was a culture fit. He was shooting so well this season. He was such a great leader, blah, blah, blah. We all knew that from a long-term perspective, this was the prudent thing to do. It was just whether or not the Knicks were actually going to do the prudent thing and actually take into account that a few years down the line for once. And with the management changes that have happened over the past few days, it became clear leading up to the deadline that they were going to do it. So the particulars of this do not surprise me. I think Morris will help the Clippers. That sort of solidifies their rotation going into the playoffs. He's another guy that is a pretty solid defender, not a stopper, but can guard multiple positions. But then offensively, he's just so much more dynamic than Harkless is, right? Like, Harkless is probably a little bit of a better defender than Morris, but with Morris, you can't switch small guys onto him the way you would with Moe Harkless, which we've seen in the playoffs the past few years, and you can't just ignore him on the perimeter and cheat off of him like we've also seen from Moe Harkless the past few years. So I like Moe Harkless as a player, and I think the Knicks will find him a useful player for the time that he is in New York, but Morris is unquestionably an upgrade from the Clippers' perspective, and I think the Knicks did the sort of clear and obvious thing to everyone else, but not necessarily to the Knicks until a couple of days ago.
All right, Bill, you're there in Los Angeles, and so there were so many talks about Marcus Morris possibly going to the Clippers or the Lakers here, so we're hearing the details of this trade. First and foremost, your reaction to it.
Yeah, my reaction is I talked to a Lakers official earlier in the day who told me the biggest storyline they were watching wasn't just what they were going to be able to do, but what they would do in competition with that Clippers team that I think they expect, they know, I think we all expect are going to face each other and really define who's going to be the Western Conference champion when the playoffs roll along. I love it for the Clippers. I think it's a great move. I think the deepest, great team in the NBA just got deeper. Marcus Morris has always been a pretty good shooter, shooting really well from three this year. And while, as James said, he's not a top-tier defender, that's an actual tough guy on the court, right? He is a mean defender. He's not afraid of guys like LeBron James. He's not afraid of a team like the Lakers with Anthony Davis. He's a perfect fit, I think, what he does and who he is for that Clippers culture. I think it's a great move for the Clippers. He's obviously not a superstar, but this is a really nice piece for a Clippers team, as we all know, that has a real chance to hoist that trophy come June.
Yeah, Bill, I have to agree with you guys again. I think it's a really a good move for the Clippers. And, you know, obviously a 44% three-point shooter, 43, you know, over the course of his career. He shoots the ball. He can create, you know, space there in the Clippers, and you want to maintain space with the gifted scorers that they have, you know, on the perimeter. But where I think he really adds that value is on the defensive end and the toughness. And he might not be a sit-down, prototypical lockdown guy, but the toughness that he brings in playoff situations, you know, added to a team like the Clippers with Pat Beverly and Kawhi, and having to theoretically go through the Lakers, he is not going to be afraid of that moment. He will body up. He will be physical. He is not going to back down for the challenge. So adding more backbone to that team, along with skill, is really a good thing for the Clippers to do. I also think it works out for the Knicks a little bit. This is one of those situations where you had a player, you know, you were kind of wasting, you know, his ability to get buckets. So you get him to a situation where he can actually win. And in the process, you get more touches for some of your young players who you may want to develop, and they need on the job, you know, experience, on the job training. And so now they get it. There's more ball to be had for the RJ Barretts of the world, and you can let them to continue to develop.
Bill, I have a quick question, because there was a lot of discussion about with the Lakers when it came to Kyle Kuzma and the Knicks. So clearly that's not happening anymore. So what do you think is going around Kyle Kuzma right now? You think they're still trying to move him?
I think they're certainly making those phone calls. And I don't know the answer to the following question. I don't. Is Rob Pelinka a general manager who's going to do exactly what LeBron James wants him to do? Or is Rob Pelinka a general manager who's going to give LeBron not what LeBron wants, but what Pelinka thinks LeBron needs? Because there's no doubt. And look, I'm not alone in having sources on this, because the people close to LeBron James have been shouting it as much as they can, LeBron doesn't want Kuzma on that team. They don't think it's a good fit. The whole notion of Kuzma's trainer sending out a shot on social media several weeks ago, months ago, those things matter to LeBron James. He has not played particularly well, Kuzma, this year as it relates to what the Lakers wanted from him. But it's hard to move a guy when he's not playing at the top of his game. So certainly Pelinka, I'm sure, is making those phone calls. The question becomes, is he desperate to do it because LeBron wants Kuzma out? Or is he going to see what the value is and make a call in a vacuum irrespective of what LeBron James wants to happen?
James, same thing for you there. I kind of want to know what you're feeling about Kyle Kuzma right now.
He's a really interesting player. He hasn't fit that well with the Lakers this year, but I think that's mostly because they've gone with a traditional 5 for the vast majority of their minutes. When he has played with Davis at the 5 and LeBron at the 4, or maybe you want to say Kuzma is the 4, LeBron the 3, however you slice that lineup has been killer. And he still has potential as a guy that could help that team down the road in those sort of combinations. But I just don't know if Los Angeles necessarily believes he will be able to do that in a playoff setting this year. And so much of what Los Angeles is doing is just geared around winning right now, making sure they don't waste a second of LeBron's career. And if they think they can make an upgrade now, they're going to have to weigh the fact that Kuzma is one of their only young guys with any sort of upside or any sort of value after trading all the assets they did to get Davis in the building in the first place, against the fact that they don't know if they can necessarily trust him in the playoffs right now, and they don't necessarily know if he fits with the way they want to play most of the time. So I think we've actually seen some flashes with Kuzma this year of how it could work, but I don't know if the Lakers are sort of confident enough that it'll work soon enough or at a high enough level for them to not trade him. The tricky part is he just makes $2 million, so actually coming up with a trade that makes them better and gets them that kind of more proven, more reliable, maybe a veteran presence on the team, like that is really not easy. It's a lot easier to talk about trading Kyle Kuzma than it is to find a realistic trade that actually helps Los Angeles.
All right, we'll see if that actually happens here in the next 20 minutes or so. Let's go back to this deal, the one that was done. Marcus Morris leaving the Knicks for the Clippers here. So the Knicks, of course, they've been very interesting this week. They have a new president as of today. That would be Leon Rose. He is an agent. So, James, tell us what you can about Leon Rose and how he fits in with this team.
Yeah, I mean, he's an absolute power player within the NBA. CAA, I think that agency's fingerprints were all over the Knicks really about 5 years ago for a long period of time. I mean, you guys remember when they had Carmelo on the team and they ended up signing J.R. Smith's brother, Chris Smith. I mean, now it's like it's official, right? I mean, they have Leon Rose running this show. People are already speculating, oh, you know, like Karl Anthony Towns is a Leon Rose client. Oh, Kyle Kuzma is a CAA client. And making all these like sort of wild speculation. You know how it works in New York. Everybody wants to say that the next guy is coming there. I don't really want to get into any of that yet. But it'll be interesting to see how this transition kind of works from the Knicks' perspective. It's an outside-the-box hire. There is at least precedent now with Bob Myers in Golden State and with Rob Pelinka in Los Angeles, and to a certain extent with Arn Talem in Detroit, too, although that's a little bit more of a nebulous role there. But it's obviously going to be a very different job than what Leon Rose has done for his entire life, and I want to see what the rest of that front office looks like, and I'm interested in sort of hearing how Dolan came to this decision and why he came to it so quickly as well, because it really seemed like, at least initially, that he had his sights set on Masai Ujiri, which is a man with just as proven and as good of a resume as you could possibly imagine, and then it turned out he didn't want to be patient on that, and he acted extremely quickly.
Well, and I think part of that, too, is he could be as patient as he wants, wait as many years as he wants. I don't think Masai Ujiri, talking to folks around the NBA, trusted James Dolan, trusted that he could have the freedom he has had in Denver and now Toronto to do the things that he's done, which is, this is what it all comes down to. Can Leon Rose be a remarkably successful head of basketball operations? Maybe. I mean, as James said, it's worked for Bob Myers. It's working for Rob Pelinka, though there's an asterisk there. You get LeBron James, and LeBron didn't go because Pelinka was the GM. Good things are going to happen. But the real question for Leon Rose, and he has the relationships, he has the credibility with players, he is extraordinarily well respected. Is he going to be able to have the freedom to do the job the way that he wants? Is James Dolan going to get out of the way behind the scenes? And just as importantly, is that toxic culture in that building. and it is a toxic culture. They remove people, right? Isaiah Thomas or Steve Mills or whoever it is, they remove people, but they don't actually move them out of the organization, and they're whispering in Dolan's ear, and it's like a Game of Thrones. That's going to be the question. You can hire whoever you want, including Masai, if the Knicks don't change, if Dolan doesn't change, if the culture remains toxic, they're not going to have success.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's where it starts and ends for me, is whether or not you're going to allow him to do his job. You hired him. We talked about this a couple days ago. Hire who you trust to do the job. Trust in their vision, and then get out of the way and let them do what they want to do. Let them establish the culture that they'd like to establish, get the pieces that they'd like to get, and then if that doesn't work and you've given it time to breathe and let it run its course, then you act accordingly. But if you're going to be in there micromanaging and shuffling pieces, you know, at the strangest times, like the Knicks have done over the last few years, that just screams of dysfunction, and your team is going to act accordingly. They will follow the lead. That starts at the top. And so Leon Rose, it is a personality business. It is a relationship business. He has those in place. A bunch of players trust him. It remains to be seen whether he can actually establish a culture and execute with the hirings that will be in lockstep with his vision, but you got to allow him the opportunity to do it. That's why you hired him. If you're not going to do that, this is not going to work.
As a player, as a former player, watching agents get into the business of basketball as far as the front office and stuff like that, how do they respond to it? Do they like it? I mean, hey, this guy knows us a little bit better. We can talk to him.
Yeah, I think players are fine with that. Agents know the ins and outs of cap and of players and of acquiring talent. Like, they're out there recruiting, you know, on when you're a senior in college, just like these teams are. And so they understand the business. Now, they do need to surround themselves, having not been on the other side of the desk, with people who have been there, who are experienced, who can help them navigate it, you know, from that side. But I don't think players mind having agents in those roles at all. They are the guys from the player side that are making sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. So they know the ins and outs of CBAs and salary caps and all that. Naturally, it's their job. Must surround them, though, with guys who have been on the other side of the desk from them, so that they can have success within the organization, though. All
right, I kind of want to go around to all three of you. If Leon Rose was behind this, we're not really sure since it was just announced he is the new president today. But if he was behind this trade as his first move, how would you grade it? Bill, we'll start with you.
I mean, I'd grade it as an A. It's the obvious move that had to happen, and with almost, 27, 28, 29 NBA organizations, that's the move that would be made. That's not been the case with the Knicks, and just following on what Raja said, you want to have an opportunity to show you're doing things the right way, making the moves you have to make, because the Knicks are not in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They're not in Detroit. They're not in Cleveland. If they have the right relationship guy, Leon Rose, if they have the right culture, if players believe that organization is going to be well run, they really should be in a position in the years ahead to do well in free agency. So every move matters, and this is, whether it was Leon or whoever the placeholder is, if that deal's not done, this was the right move, and that makes it a good day for Knicks fans.
You know why I like this move? You know why I would give this move an A? It's because it's the normal thing to do. The Knicks so rarely operate like a normal basketball team. The logic here is not hard for anybody to understand. You have a veteran who is in a contract year, who has amazing numbers, who is not going to help you define who the next great Knicks team will be. The next time the Knicks make it back to the playoffs, there's a 0% chance Marcus Morris was going to be on that roster. You trade him, you get a first-round pick, something you can use either to make that pick and get a young player, or to use in additional moves down the line. I mean, it is just a screamingly obvious thing that they needed to do, and I don't want to bend over backwards praising them because it was so clear. But, you know, the bar for the Knicks has been pretty low, so yeah, I'll give them an A.
Yeah, if it were anybody else, it would just be a ho-hum. Yeah, you had to do this, but because it was the Knicks, you do have to give them an A. Like, you had to. I mean, it's as simple as that.
They did the right thing.
They did the right thing, and so you give it an A. And you really do hope, if you're a Knicks fan, that Leon is going to be allowed to kind of execute his vision of what he thinks a front office should look like, and thusly what a team should look like.
All right, we get 3 A's for Leon Rose there if he was behind this trade for Marcus Morris to the Clippers in return for Moe Harkless and other assets. Keep it right here. We're just about 14 minutes away from 3 o'clock. That means the trade deadline is done at that time. We'll see what happens in the next couple of minutes on the other side of the break.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.